evening, and welcome again to Public Perspective. I'm your host, Kevin McDermott. And if you watch the show regularly, you know that we spend a lot of time talking about current events and issues that are on the top of the news. And tonight we're going to take a little detour from that and talk about things that may not have been in the news for hundreds of years. Our guest tonight is Bob Trzeciak. Bob is a ghost hunter.
Yes.
Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Nice to be here. Thank you.
So tell me exactly what is a ghost hunter? What does a ghost hunter do?
Okay, what a ghost hunter is, and is just that. You hunt ghosts. 9 out of the 10 times it's a hunch. You yourself either get a feeling that there's something going on there and you choose to investigate yourself, or it's something that you've heard from someone else. Someone may say, yes, I was in this place or that place and I experienced something or I saw something, and then you investigate yourself to find out. In actuality, a good part of ghost hunting is not proving that ghosts exist, but it's actually trying to disprove them. This is what you do. What you do is when you know there's a known phenomenon happening there, someone sees a ghost, someone has experienced something there, you try to disprove it and debunk it. Was it the light? Was it an animal? Was it something electrical? Was it, anything that would logically explain this happening there? And when you run out of all these reasons and you investigate it and you have no other where to go with, then you say, okay, we have something paranormal here. We do have a ghost here, yeah.
And speaking of paranormal, this is not paranormal in the dictionary definition of it, but the out of the normal, as our audience has seen. You're sitting here in a wheelchair with your foot bound up, and we should tell them that it has nothing to do with ghosts.
Nothing
you weren't
to do with
bidden.
ghosts. I wasn't attacked by ghosts, no.
They didn't grab you in their chains.
Ghosts they hardly ever attack you.
Yeah, right. This had nothing to this was just simply a home accident.
It was a home accident, yeah. So that's why I'm in the chair here, but I'm recovering from this and we're doing okay with it, and yeah.
So you can get back to ghost hunting after
that. I have never stopped ghost hunting. Even with this, I've never stopped. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's because if in fact a lot of it is debunking and trying to find out what else could it be, that you don't have to be traveling that much. I mean, you can do a lot of that kind of research without having to get on the scene.
But it's nice to do it hands-on. It's nice to be at the location, and absolutely, yeah. When I was in the rehab center, right after I had this injury, I was in the hospital for a couple of days, and then I went to rehab. And in the rehab center, I would often, wheel myself through the corridors at night, like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. You couldn't sleep, and I encountered someone there. I encountered an entity there. About 2 o'clock in the morning, I saw a man who I thought was the night janitor that would come and clean the floors, and I saw him, tall, African-American man, dark uniformed, and I said, oh, okay, that's him. Well, then all of a sudden when I saw him walk through a door without opening the door, I says, okay, I have somebody here. So then I started asking questions the next day. I asked questions to the owner of the facility, the nurses, asked about deaths of an employee. I was assuming it was an employee. It didn't look like the man was a patient. It looked like he was an employee because he looked uniformed. No one seemed to have any answers for it. I tried looking for him a couple of nights thereafter, but he never came back again. Just the one time.
That one-time shot.
Yeah, just that one time I saw him. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a ghost, and on the other hand,
it's rare. It's extremely rare.
But is it something that most people would poo-poo it? I mean, people would say, well, there's no scientific evidence for ghosts, and therefore it's a lot of
oh yes, I run into this. Yeah.
Right. But if you're looking for them or you're interested in finding out whether they're real, I mean, is there a certain state of mind? So, for example, do you have to be receptive? Like, as an example, it's hard to be hypnotized if you're not willing to relax and let yourself be hypnotized.
I see what you're asking, yeah.
So is it similar in looking for ghosts? Do you have to allow it, and if you have built up this resistance, that you would never see it?
Well, you're either going to be a believer or you're not. And the only way to become a believer, I guess, is if you actually see something yourself, although that's not necessarily true either. You can believe without ever having seen one and just hope you come and see one. But some people are a little more in tune with it than others are. Some people can, see it. I've had an experience where I actually talked with someone, and there was another person in the room with me, and the person wasn't seeing them at all.
But you could see, and
I could see the person and talk with them and everything.
Get an answer?
But the other person was, oh yeah, we conversed just like I'm speaking with you, yeah.
And the other person saw and heard nothing?
Nothing, not at all, nothing at all, no. There was some movement, you could see some movement because they did film, some things in that. There was a little bit of movement in that, but he couldn't see anything, no.
So who was the ghost you were talking to?
I don't know. I don't know his name. He was an older gentleman. Older gentleman. He didn't speak English very well. Kind of spoke broken English, and he kind of got upset with me. He says, "Well, you should know what I'm talking about. You should know this." And I says, "I can't understand you." So then he started speaking, in broken English to me, and the thing that got me was he says, "I liked your music." He says, "I like music." I said, "You like?" Because every once in a while I would play old opera recordings of past stars and tie those into some of the haunts of some of these old stars. And he says, "I liked it." So thereafter, I always made sure to play some opera and that to see if we could get him to come back, but he didn't want to come back again.
Now, where was that?
This was in a studio where I did a radio show from. Yeah. Oh, incidentally, the show I'm on now, I have to mention, I wrote this down so I don't forget. The Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network. That's where I do my show, Paranormal Radio. Once a month I do a show there. That's with Mr. John DeVita and then Mr. John Shakanda, two nice men that do all the work over there and do the editing and produce the shows there and everything like that. I had to mention that. Yeah.
It's okay to say you got friends and they help you out. This show would be impossible without people who are really dedicated and devote a lot of time for reasons I'm very happy about, but don't always quite understand why. But I'm very happy that they do. So it's okay to thank the people who make it possible.
Oh yeah, they're just a fantastic bunch of people. They really are. Yeah, it's very, very nice. Yeah.
So how did you become a ghost hunter?
Oh my gosh, I can't remember ever not being one. I probably from childhood on, I was always interested in this. I think everybody has an interest in it, of course, from movies and from the media and that kind of thing like that. And then I started, as I got a little older, I started investigating it myself. And in actuality, it was my brother, my older brother Ray. He had taken a parapsychology class. And with that, you kind of investigate some of the paranormal and some of the psychic phenomena and that. And he would haul me around, like to the Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, Resurrection Mary, which is like one of our most famous Chicago haunts. That story I heard from childhood on, like from my mother and father. So these kind of things were always around me.
Resurrection Mary, the woman who appears down near First Archer Avenue.
That's the one, our hitchhiking ghost. Yeah, she's probably the more famous one. I think that's the story most people hear. That's one I grew up with as a kid. So I always heard these stories and all these things. And then as I got older, I says, let me investigate some of this on my own and start researching this. And I thought I was the only one doing it, and boy, was I wrong. There are many people out there doing this. Yeah.
So have you ever seen Mary?
I've never experienced Resurrection Mary, and and countless times I've gone past that cemetery. Never experienced it. No, never experienced her.
So coming back to the incident in the studio where you were having the conversation and your buddy saw nothing. The temptation would be, if I were the buddy, I would look at you and say, well, Bob, you've lost your mind. You're just crazy.
Oh, sure.
You're hearing things, and I'm telling you, there was nothing there. So you, being someone who wants to debunk the other possibilities, right? So how do you counter that? Someone says, "Well, you're just nuts." I mean, I'm sure you heard that. So what do you say in response?
Everybody's entitled to their own opinions, and that's how I feel about it. And that's what I would say to somebody. Like if they say, "Oh, well, you're crazy," or "No, you didn't really see that," or whatever, I say, "Well, all right, you're entitled to your opinion, and that's okay." I don't try to sway anyone's beliefs or disbeliefs. Some people have religious convictions that would prevent them from from this type of thing, and that's fine. I never tried to tell anybody, no, this is the way it is. Everybody to their own vices. Yeah.
So if you want to go hunt for ghosts, aside from the really famous ones like Resurrection Mary, how do you go about doing that now? How do you start?
On a hunch. You wouldn't just walk into a building just at random. Usually you get a hunch that there is something going on there. However, if you do go into a place and you do feel there is something there, then it may be something you want to pursue a little further and ask questions. People that live there, people that work there, sometimes they're a little reluctant to talk about this. Some people are a little reluctant to talk about it. Some people are more free, in giving you information and that kind of thing. And just do some investigating on your own and see if there is something there or there's not,
So now you've had personal experiences as you've described, and I'm sure you've had others, and there are, as you say, there's a large number of people who also do this and have
many,
had similar experiences. So why is there so little scientific evidence that these paranormal experiences exist?
Yeah, paranormal is not recognized as an actual science. It's sort of like chiropractors some years ago weren't recognized as actual medicine. That's how paranormal is. They don't recognize it as an actual science because they say there's no actual physical proof of, but yet we do have recordings of what are, voices. Some of these are
garbled.
They're very garbled, that kind of thing. But we do have that. We do have some film footage, and we do have photos, of ghosts, and as well as credible witnesses, people that have nothing to lose or gain by telling you a story of a sighting that they've had or an experience they have. those are people I tend to believe. It's not someone that's writing a book or someone that's doing a radio show or doing a TV show.
Unlike,
yes,
yeah, you would do a radio show, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're not promoting. They have nothing to gain by this. They're just a person that had an experience. They say, yeah, I was going down Archer Road and we saw the woman, the waitress, standing there, and I
nothing to
believe them.
gain, nothing to lose.
Exactly.
They just did it. They
Yes,
saw it.
I believe them. Yes.
So how do you then, you talk about debunking. I mean, what's the process? How do you go through it and see whether or not something can be explained by anything else?
Yes, what you do is you look for the natural explanations, which would be the logical things. Someone sees a shadow, someone sees, they say, I see something, there's something there. And you hear this from a couple of different people, that they're seeing the same kind of thing. Then you would go in and you would investigate. You would look at the electrical. You know, is there something electrical that could cause this? Some animal that would cause it? Some wind? The light coming in a certain way? Any one of 1,000 different things that would make this appear, you know, at certain times. This is the case sometimes with icons and with statues, where a statue cries or has tears, not necessarily a haunting, but people, you know, make this a miraculous thing. And then on investigation, they find out, no, there was some moisture in the wood or something in the plaster
and it's
that
just
caused
leaching
it.
out, right?
Yes. So this is the same type of thing you do here. And then, like I say, when you have no logical explanation for this, it wasn't a cat that ran across. It wasn't something in the lighting that caused the shadow. It wasn't something from the outside. It wasn't the paint on the whatever. Anything of, you know, one of 1,000 different things. You exhaust all those sources, then you say, yes, we do have something here we can't explain. This is a definite paranormal experience.
Which doesn't necessarily mean that it's a ghost. It may mean at this point that it's unexplained. There's something happening. It may be a ghost, maybe something.
Well, now when you say ghost, you're actually seeing the form. You're actually seeing the form.
So
that's something people rarely do. Now, there are other ways you experience the paranormal, which I think is what you're getting at. You experience that through sounds and through smells. It's not often. It's actually kind of rare to actually see the actual apparition, but many people do encounter smells. It's very common with lost loved ones, where you smell grandma's cologne, or dad's cigarette smoke, or a cigar that father smoked, or even a certain music, a sound, music played on the radio, a certain song, or the TV going on and going off, those kind of things like that. You know, a favorite program or a favorite song that someone listened to, all of a sudden just coming from nowhere, those kind of things. So you experience it through sounds and through smells, as well as the sightings. The sightings are, of course, what everyone wants. Everyone wants to see the ghost, because that's what Hollywood and the movies have led us to believe, you know.
Ghostbusters, for
yeah,
example.
absolutely, right, yeah. It's not always that way, though. Matter of fact,
It's
99%
almost never
of them are not that way. Yes.
Yeah. That's why it was such an enduring comedy, right?
Yeah.
So what then is a ghost? I mean, you talk about smells or sounds. Is that sound a ghost? Is that its own entity, or is there? Do you feel that there's like a person or some human entity that's triggered the sound? I mean, what exactly is the ghost itself?
Well, the ghost itself would be the form that you would see. However, if you're experiencing the smells and you're experiencing the sounds and that, there's some person connected to that. And
is it the belief then that if I smelled the cigarette smoke, for example, or heard the opera music, whatever it is, that person that was connected with that is somehow present now?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not all ghosts are seen. Not all are. Some are a little shy. They don't always make their presence known physically. You know, like where you actually see them, but they do it in this way. Yeah. Sometimes too, in the case of a poltergeist, it's actually physically moving things.
And so what constitutes a poltergeist? How is that different from a
well,
ghost?
poltergeists are more considered, there again, what the movies have led us to believe, more mischievous ghosts. Those are the ones that like to move books and move things and this kind of thing like that. Incidentally, the easiest way to investigate this, and it's a tried and true formula that they've used for hundreds of years, is if you believe you have something in your house that's making things move that you can't explain it, good old Sarasota flour. Sprinkle some flour around on the table, sprinkle some flour around on the floor. If there's anybody in the house or anybody that is moving this, you will see their fingerprints and their footprints. But if it's moving and you can't see any prints in the flour, you've got something supernatural there. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a simple way of doing it, yeah.
Right.
So you don't need all this high-tech electronic equipment to do this, yeah.
So, I know, and I think again of movies because that's how we experience ghosts.
That's what we're trained, yeah.
How we're trained to think, right? And in what is it? I think The Sixth Sense, where the ghosts are dead, but they don't know they're dead.
That's a common belief in the paranormal, is that these people they're gone from this world, they're dead, but they don't realize they are. That's why they're still here. With ghosts, in many cases, matter of fact, in 99% of the cases, it's repetition. They're doing the same thing over and over that they did in life. That's why people say, well, why do ghosts pass through walls? Why do ghosts walk up staircases? They're actually not. When they were there physically on the earth in human form, there was no wall there. They're walking the path they walked in life. The staircase may have been there. They're walking up the stairs that were there when they lived there, when they were there. This is the case of the White House. The White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, is probably one of the most haunted buildings in the world. There are many ghosts there. And we do have some ghosts that like to walk up staircases and pass through walls in the White House. Because over the years it's been changed and remodeled and things have been done to it. So, yeah.
So why does a place become haunted? I mean, what do we know? I mean, why does if a person dies and doesn't know they're dead, they haunt. But at some point, I would think you'd have to figure it out, after hundreds of years or whatever.
What would cause a haunting? And again, these are opinions that I have, and just my views on it are: it's in some cases it is a violent death. Someone just leaving the earth very unexpectedly and violently, through a suicide, through a murder. But this is not always the case.
So would Abraham Lincoln be a ghost in the White House then, and maybe in the
theater?
theater?
Oh, most definitely. Abraham Lincoln, not in the theater, but Abraham Lincoln's ghost has been seen in the White House. Oh, Abraham Lincoln's ghost is everywhere. He's probably in here with us now, for all that matters.
Well, it's Illinois,
I don't
after
think he
all,
is,
so,
but he's probably one of the most seen of our ex-presidents. Yeah, Abraham Lincoln's spirit and presence and physical presence has been seen.
So does the theory of ghosts then mean that soul or that spirit is not at rest?
Yes. They're not quite at rest yet. They haven't really crossed over yet, that type of thing. Sometimes, too, they just like the place they were at. Sometimes in the case of someone buying a home and moving into the home, and then all of a sudden they say, geez, there's a little old lady that we have. We see her, and she's sitting in the kid's room, and she's looking over the crib, or she sits in the chair downstairs. And sometimes they just liked their home. That was where they lived. It's not, there again, now it's not the case of a violent death or something like that.
Right.
They just liked it there so much. They're just checking in on things to see that things are okay and see how the new family's doing and see if you changed my paint color and what you did to the house, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So people are terrified of ghosts generally, but is it the case that they're generally not threatening?
No, not at all. They're not threatening at all.
Can they even be threatening? Is it?
They can be. Now, I've never experienced this myself, but I have experienced people that claim, yes, they have been scratched by a ghost, they have had, been attacked, physically felt them touching them, that kind of thing. There again, it's extremely rare. 9 times out of the 10, they are harmless. I would say even more than that, probably 99 out of 100 times, they're harmless. They just make their presence known, and you see them, and that's it. Yeah.
So what would constitute, or what would distinguish a dangerous ghost from one that isn't? Well, I guess it's all speculation, but why would this admittedly small percentage of ghosts be violent, and how is it that, more importantly, how is it that ghosts can actually interact with humans if they're just spirits? How can they have physical contact?
In actuality, they're not having physical contact with the people. I mean, they have contact. You can't actually touch them.
But if they've scratched you?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Now, personally, myself, I've never experienced this. I've talked with people that claim they have. I leave it open to them. If they say they have, that's it. I'm not doubting them. It's okay. I haven't experienced it. You make up your own mind on it. Personally, myself, I don't believe that happens. I don't believe anyone is attacked by a spirit that way. They make their presence known. Like I say, they may move things. They'll do things to frighten you and let you know they're there. And of course, it's the unexpected. You're not expecting this to happen, and when you do, that's of course always frightening, the unexpected. But as far as actually physically attacking and bodily threatening, no.
So is it possible, and you talked earlier about your experience with the ghost in the studio and how you were able to engage the ghost in conversation. Is it possible to reach out? I mean, can you make contact? You did, but I mean, are there ways to reach out? Are there ways to be receptive? Are there ways to welcome a ghost?
That's tough to do. Now, every time I've seen a ghost, like I said, I did go back, and I always would make sure I played a little opera and this kind of thing to try to see if we can get him to come back. He never did. He never wanted to come back. When they're good and ready to come to you, they will.
They will.
Yeah, they will. You can't like conjure them up and and let them, yeah.
Which actually is kind of the opposite of Hollywood, right? That you can
conjure
conjure ghosts.
Most definitely, yeah. Yeah, very, very much so, yeah. Many of these shows that you see on TV and the movies and things, they're fine. They're entertaining and they serve their purpose for that, but it's not the way they are, yeah. Yeah, it's not the way it really is, yeah.
So have you ever been scared out of your wits?
Oh, all the time. Unexpectedly, you're scared by them. One time I was in a restaurant, which was known for some paranormal activity, and I heard this from a police officer, which a police officer I would consider a pretty credible witness, and another employee that worked there. And they said, there is something going on in this restaurant. I said, well, I've never experienced it, and I come here often. You know, I mean, like every other day I'm in here and everything like that. And then finally, one time I did. I experienced it, yeah. I was sitting in the booth, and I got up to go into the restroom to wash my hands. There was only one other person in the restaurant, and I'm in there washing my hands before I came to sit down and eat, and the door pushed open. So I pushed the door back shut, and then the door pushed open again. Well, the second time it pushed open, I thought, well, why did he come in here? He saw me walk in the bathroom, the other customer that was there. So I pulled the door open real fast, and there was this person standing in front of me. And I think I startled
the ghost,
him as much as he startled me. You know, I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't doing an investigation there. I had heard that there was some activity there.
And how did you know immediately that that was not a real person? I mean,
I could tell immediately because it was more of a transparent.
Okay.
Sometimes they're more solid in that, but this one wasn't. No, this was more of a transparent. I could see like right through him. And then, like I said, I think I startled him as much as he startled me. And he moved and he walked and he went through the counter. He went through the counter and went into the back. And the lady that worked there, the employee that worked there, says, "Do you believe me now?" She saw it too.
Well, at the same time,
she saw the same thing. She says, "Do you believe me now?" And I says, "I never doubted you," but I says, "I just never saw it." I says, "Now I did." And there again, like I say, he went through the counter, so apparently that counter had not been there when he was there, and he was just walking his normal escape route or whatever.
So what's the most frightened you've ever been?
Oh, the most frightened I've ever been? Gosh, I think, I forget how old I was, and I watched Vincent Price in The Pit and the Pendulum. And it scared the bejeebies out of me. Yeah. As did all of his films. I think the films actually scare me more, that stuff, than the real life things.
So that kind of inoculated you against the real life. So you.
Oh yeah, sure. Like I say, they're fun to watch and everything. But and if this leads someone to go into paranormal investigating and to get serious about this, it's great. It really is. But so many of these shows, and not to down any of them or anything, but they're entertainment, and you don't go on investigations to investigate a ghost or something, some paranormal activity, and it all gets solved in an hour. You know, it doesn't work that way.
Unlike TV, most of life doesn't get solved in an hour.
No. Seances too. We were talking a little bit before we did the show about seances and that kind of thing, and it says the Hollywood rendition of these and what they actually are is quite different. You know, very different.
So how, you mentioned that a couple of times. So how do the movies misportray ghosts?
Well, they're misportraying them in the sense that it's for entertainment. So what you would normally see is actually kind of humdrum. Like I say, you're seeing someone doing their normal activities, such as Abigail Adams walking with outstretched arms to the east room of the White House. Big deal. You know, this isn't someone coming with an axe, you know, chasing after someone like you would see in a movie, or someone trying to, you know, or opening up a closet and seeing someone hanging there and, you know, to really frighten you and this kind of thing. 9 out of 10 times, these ghosts are doing what they did in life, just the mundane things. They're going through what they did in life.
So Poltergeist and the crazy ghosts that are ripping up the new housing division. That's not
well.
Really
Poltergeist had its issues too. That was about it being built over the cemetery and not moving the graves and that kind of thing like that. Yeah. So sometimes that does cause unrest. Now there is a cemetery in North Riverside where they've had some problems with that, where some of the ground that they actually sold part of the cemetery's land and put a little shopping strip mall there.
Woodlawn?
Well, not Woodlawn Cemetery. No. Not Woodlawn itself. It's the one next to it.
Okay. Gotcha.
Anyway, they did that, and they've had a lot of trouble with that strip mall ever since it's been there. They have trouble with the electric, trouble with the alarms going off, trouble with doors opening and closing, and people experiencing cold spots and chills, and things they can't explain. Having that creepy feeling, someone's standing behind you, and you turn around, there's no one there. And they've done things to the electric. They've investigated it. They've police have been called when alarms goes off. They have no explanation for it.
You'd think that would be bad for business.
Well, yeah, it would. That's if it gets out, that way. But then on the other hand, sometimes it's good for business because people like this kind of stuff. So So
the people who are drawn to that will come and frequent your business.
People play up to the ghosts. I mean, there's certain bars that put out special drinks for the certain ghosts and things and that. So yeah, there's people play up to this. It's a little different in Europe than it is here. I think in Europe, they're much more in tune to the paranormal and to ghosts. In real estate, when you're selling a home or you're selling your castle in England or whatever, they actually put haunted as a ghost. There have actually been cases where people have sued and said, we didn't get the ghost that we were supposed to get with the house. So yeah, so they're a little more in tune with it than we are here. Yeah.
Is it really true that there'll be a lawsuit that we bought this house because it's haunted, but it isn't?
It didn't have a ghost. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's happened. There have been cases of that happening. Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty good. Or maybe it just wasn't. Well, now there may be a case where those people weren't attuned enough to see the ghost, like your buddy who didn't see you having the conversation in the studio.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes too with homes, a theory that I have on this is sometimes I hear people tell me a story and they'll say, we've lived in this home 20 years or 25 years or 30 years or whatever it is. And they said, we've never experienced anything, never. And then all of a sudden, like in the last year or two, we're seeing a woman on the staircase. We're experiencing things, our books are moving, glasses are moving in the kitchen, things are, water's running, a toilet's flushing, a TV's going on and off. And this guy, first thing I asked him, he says, well, did you recently do any remodeling or any adding on to the house? Yes, we did about a year ago. That's it. Sometimes they're there and they're quiet. Yes, you disturb their space, and it kind of shook them up, and they're letting you know.
So do we think that it's, does everybody become a ghost, or just certain people become
Not
ghosts?
everyone. No, not everyone. There's different theories about this too. Sometimes it's, like I said before, a violent death. Someone left the earth unexpectedly. Sometimes it's just a case of them not wanting to leave. They really like it here. They like it.
And
they haven't.
So at some point they might decide that, okay, I've been here long enough, and whatever that white light or whatever it is you
and that's a little hard to determine too. It's hard to determine, like, you may have been seeing something there or experiencing something on a regular basis there, people may have, and then all of a sudden it's not there anymore. Sometimes it's a case of a dormancy, where a ghost or a spirit will go dormant and maybe not be seen for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and then they start up again. This is the case with some famous ghosts. For instance, Resurrection Mary. There haven't been any sightings reported of her recently. For a few years there haven't been anything. Right? Yeah. Abraham Lincoln's funeral train was kind of a common one, and that hasn't been seen in a while. Although people show up at the railroad tracks every April 15th on the anniversary of his death, and they claim their watches stop and they have trouble with the electronic equipment, but the actual train itself has not been seen. So it's a case of a dormancy.
But the train had been seen.
Oh, yeah, many times. Yeah, people have seen it. Yeah.
The full train.
Yeah, the funeral train. Yeah, coming down the tracks. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, with the music playing. They said it was playing funeral dirges very loudly, almost deafening, and they could see figures, human figures in there, and they could see the coffins in the cars. Yeah, but that hasn't happened in some time. Yeah, yeah.
I was going to say, when's the next time? I'd go down to see.
Well, every April 15th, show up at the tracks downtown in Chicago. When Lincoln's funeral train came through Chicago en route to Springfield, 500,000 people in 1865 showed up to pay their respects to the president, and it's been known to happen there. So, yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me. So, if I wanted to see ghosts, if I were interested in doing this, how would I pursue that? What kinds of things would I do? Do you lead tours or something, or could I?
Well, I do some tours with some of the park districts. I do tours, but now these tours are a little more controlled. It's not like an actual serious investigation. What we do is I take people around to places where paranormal activity has been known to happen. We'll take them past Resurrection Cemetery, and we'll tell them the pros and cons of the Resurrection Mary story, of which there are hundreds. We'll take them to Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, which is a psychic hotbed. There's been a lot of things there. We'll take them to an actual haunted house, and we'll tell them this goes on here. Now, on a tour like this, you may not actually see anything.
I would imagine frequently it probably does not, right?
No, it doesn't. Although there was one very famous Chicago ghost hunter that on a tour actually claimed they experienced the ghost of Clarence Darrow.
And the whole tour saw this.
Yeah, they saw it, and they actually went after it, and then it just dematerialized in front of them and disappeared. So, so it does happen.
So he couldn't give them any legal advice before he left, right?
No. However, people that do go on these tours always bring cameras, and they take photos and things. And one of the things that shows up very commonly are orbs. And orbs are these little blue, white, and in some instances black balls that do show up in photographs for unexplained reasons. And there again, whenever we have orbs in a photo, we try to explain them. Was it something with the light? Was it a spot, a rain spot on the camera, dust, something? And we can't find anything that would have caused those to show up in it. We know we have orbs, and we know it's something paranormal.
Well, this is a normal show, and we're out of time.
Well, Bob, thank you very much.
Yes, it's been very enlightening. It's been a blast, in fact. So thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to have you back again.
Thank you for having me. Oh, I'd love to come on. Yeah, well, trust me, we can do like about 10 of these.
A million stories. Right? Okay. So thank you again, and thank you for joining us once again on Public Perspective. I'm your host, Kevin McDermott. You can find us every Saturday night at 8 on Comcast Channel 19, and find us on the web at publicperspective.tv. So until next time, thank you and good night.